I want to talk about cargo cults for a second.
Sure.
You know about cargo cults.
A little bit, yeah.
So the deal of cargo cults, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there are a number of islands in the South Pacific that, people were, had a more primitive technology before the Second World War, Stone Age or what have you. And that the Second World War was a huge impact on them because suddenly the United States parachuted people down and they built runways and they would land planes and they would drop food from the sky, and suddenly these people had this period of plenty for a few years, and then after the war they rolled it all up and the United States left. And so on some of these islands, and I believe even to this day, there are these so-called cargo cults. And they're trying to get this cargo to come back to their island.
Yeah, they're creating a sort of modern mythology. All of this just appeared, but the correlation wasn't right there, or the causation wasn't there.
So somebody who might be like a witch doctor or a religious leader type person in these would make like a airman's helmet out of bamboo or a walkie-talkie out of bamboo, and they would make runways, and they would make set up these lights and all this stuff made out of sticks and rocks and whatever, and would be talking into this fake walkie-talkie and saying things that are like a pigeon version of military slang from the 40s, and the idea being like, well, these giant birds will come back from the sky and drop stuff down. And I think that this is not pointing up so much that silly islanders, you guys are so dumb, but that this is something that we're all dumb about. We all sort of see something that worked, and then we keep trying it again because, of course, it will work if we keep trying it. But sometimes circumstances fundamentally change, or it worked because of certain things about the situation that are no longer true, or that are not universally true. So I think that sometimes a lot of advocacy, or a lot of political things, or a lot of things that a city does. A city decides to spend a bunch of money doing this or that, and then sometimes I think that because they've seen it work in another situation. And I think that sometimes there can be a cargo cult aspect, that it's like, well, your situation is not that situation. The dynamic is different in your situation than in that situation, and so you're. I see things like building a sports stadium, which seems like everybody thinks is a terrible idea, but somehow people still are like, maybe some point a million years ago, building a sports stadium was helpful to your city, so you need to keep trying to build a sports stadium in your city.
I think is what I just did a second ago, is mixing correlation with causation and not understanding the differences between the two. Quite simply, the idea that there's always going to be a corollary between things that are happening, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's causation between two events.
Yes. Yeah. So, in my opinion, one thing that can help you break out of this is to do new things. Just to that if you're doing something that you haven't done before, or that you're not really aware of people having done too much, you're less likely to fall into that kind of a cargo cult trap. Like to say, well, we saw a video of Martin Luther King doing some kind of picket, or somebody doing some kind of union picket of a thing, so therefore we're going to picket a business, and that will make them change. Maybe in some cases it will, maybe in some cases it won't. Don't be a cargo cultist and think that it always does just because Martin Luther King did this, that you're in the same situation as civil rights people. The dynamic may be totally different. So Veg Worcester did a thing at Dunkin' Donuts. There was a one of these sort of investigations, one of these undercover investigations of a farm producing either eggs or dairy for Dunkin' Donuts. I think it was eggs for Dunkin' Donuts stuff last year, and showed sort of horrible conditions at one of their suppliers, and was sort of saying to Dunkin' Donuts, you need to not use this supplier, you need to probably try to take this product, reformulate your donut. Your donut is not this wholesome food product. It's full of all kinds of processed garbage. Just use different processed garbage. Use less cruel processed garbage in your donut and make a similarly delicious donut. So in this case, what they've done is rather than merely hold out signs in front of Dunkin' Donuts look at how Dunkin' Donuts was mean to this chicken, they had one of their free food on the street deals. So they held up some signs saying hey, Dunkin' Donuts, you need to change your deal. But mostly what they were doing is handing out these donuts that they had made that were animal-free donuts. And I missed this, so I cannot comment whether these animal-free donuts were
I missed it too.
A good substitute for Dunkin' Donuts or not.
They didn't save any for us?
If they did, they would
Seems very irresponsible and true.
I think they would be a little gross by now. I'm pretty sure these guys didn't use industrial preservatives, so they would be a little more wholesome than the Dunkin' Donuts in that case. Anyway, I just thought that was positive. I think that I just think that that's a positive way to do it, because even if it's an ineffective way to do a demonstration, an ineffective way to petition Dunkin' Donuts, it's a different way. And so maybe you learn something.
I've got nothing.
That's a story as a metaphor. I feel like a guiding metaphor for me in 2010. What I expect from the city, which is
Try new things.
Do different dumb things, Worcester. Do different dumb things.
The same dumb things over and over again. We've got all sorts of new dumb things we can try.
Don't just tear up the same street over and over again. Tear up completely unrelated, pointless streets over and over again. You know, that's what I want to see happen.
Maybe start painting yellow lines on the sidewalks instead of on the street.
Just do stupid things. Just do stupid things. Drive businesses out of the city that you haven't tried to drive out before. Turn over a new leaf in 2010. That's my suggestion.
These are some good goals for the city.